that OpenAI have recently been discussing is the fact that they are considering developing a humanoid robot. This is the information according to the information, and apparently, the company has recently considered developing their own humanoid robot according to two people with direct knowledge of the discussions. Now, over the past year, they speak about how OpenAI has dropped not so subtle hints about its revived interest in robotics. And we can actually look at the company.
They're only interested because Elon Musk is in it right now. And that Tesla bot is hitting the live stream, especially Kai's live stream. And people are probably asking questions about where technology is at. Like, if you don't notice how Sam Altman is strategically trying to avoid Elon with all his moves, trying to avoid partnership with Elon with all his moves, even as far as to closing his open sourced model. So it's like, which move is it? Is it the move for advancing humanity, or is it the move to avoid, like, venture capitalism?
Companies that OpenAI have invested in. For example, if we take a look at physical intelligence, this is a remarkable company that I covered earlier this year that I don't think has gotten enough credit. You can see here Jeff Bezos at OpenAI have invested in robot startup physical intelligence at a $2.4 billion valuation. If you're wondering why you've probably never heard of this company, that's because this company, Physical Intelligence, isn't a humanoid robotics company. This is a company that is focused on autonomous robots that can pretty much do anything with two hands. Now, when we take a look at what the physical intelligence robots actually do, these are ones that can pretty much do a lot of tasks autonomously that previously we thought weren't really possible. Now, this is something that I think is remarkable because I do remember that when I first covered a robotics company that was doing this, it was called Mobile Aloha, and that was a company that I thought was doing some incredible work. And it actually responded, like the audience actually thought so as well. And then that video got tons and tons of views. So this is a company that is able to do a variety of different tasks autonomously. Right now, this is something that is 100% autonomous. This is not teleoperated. And this is one of the companies that OpenAI have invested in. And it seems like they are backing this company. Now, in addition to backing this autonomous company, and this isn't all the company can do in terms of just packing robots, they can do laundry, just a variety of different things. And trust me, those policies.
So I guess my question is, when it comes to autonomous, that it takes on a lot of different meanings, especially with robotics, especially with hardware. So autonomous for, I guess, a system or software robotics will kind of be like doing a specific task that's supposed to be done over and over again, like repetitively, and supposed to just make that autonomous. You know what I mean? That's completely different from the autonomous that we're talking about right here. That's like software autonomy, whatever that word is, versus hardware. So like I'm curious to see what the difference is when it comes to like just the overall training side of it. Is it still being trained on, well, there is simulations, but I'm just curious to see what kind of training they're going through exactly. It's not really much to talk about if you're not researching or reading on 2-minute research papers. That's a YouTube channel that gives out the research on how robotics is taking form and NVIDIA's newest simulations and stuff. But just the overall autonomous robots and tasks, it is not the same as like a software autonomy, whatever that word is. Because software, you have to like just make sure you program in the same tedious task for a business model. This is kind of like, it's not the same tedious task, it's just tasks that everyday people would do, which could take on different like processes.
That
You could look it up too. You don't gotta take my word for it.
they generate can generalize to other robot platforms as well, which has stark implications. Like, for example, in this demo, where we're actually seeing the robot clear away a table, it's navigating the trash and it's literally putting everything in the bin. I mean, imagine in 10 years when you have your robot server come up and clean the table for you. I mean, a company like this, backed by the likes of OpenAI and Amazon, wouldn't be surprising. Now, another company that you are probably more familiar with is, of course, the company called Figure. Now, this is a company that is valued at $2.6 billion, as many companies, including OpenAI, have, of course, joined funding. Now, the crazy thing about this is that this company is actually powered by OpenAI. And in their recent demo, we got to see the first glimpse at what humanoid robots might look like if OpenAI have created them themselves. This is something that gained huge virality in the internet space, and this is something that I think genuinely brought humanoids into the main sphere, as I saw a lot of people that weren't really a part of the AI/robotics space talking about this for the first time.
Hey, Figure One, what do you see right now?
I see a red apple on a plate in the center of the table, a drying rack with cups and a plate, and you standing nearby with your hand on the table.
Great, can I have something to eat?
Sure thing.
Great. Can you explain why you did what you just did while you pick up this trash?
On it. So I gave you the apple because it's the only edible item I could provide you with from the table.
Great. So, based on the scene right now, where do you think the dishes in front of you go next?
The dishes on the table, like that plate and cup, are likely to go into the drying rack next.
Great. Can you put them there?
Of course.
All right. So, how do you think you did?
I think I did pretty well. The apple found its new owner, the trash is gone, and the tableware is right where it belongs.
I agree. Thanks, Figure One.
You're welcome. If there's anything.
You know what's interesting? All robots, or at least all models, talk to inanimate objects as if they like we're their owner or like we're their master or something like that. You know what I mean? They already give us that conscious like, yo, almost like slave to slave owner type of relationship. They don't look at, I mean, it would be scary to think that they would be our equal, but they don't look at us as such. They look at us as helpers. In that in that way of thinking, I'm just thinking like, wouldn't that be like kind of like a bug in the system? Because, whatever.
Anything else you need help with, just let me know.
Now, I do think that this update will be one of the
Because that could cause hallucinations, no? Because it's always trying to help. So now if you make it seem like it's not helping, then do we have a bug? You know what I mean?
most fascinating updates, because this demo was one of the ones where we actually truly got to see how large language models can truly enhance the experience of robots and them interacting with the real world. It's really interesting to see robots do a variety of different actions in physical environments, but when you can actually talk to a robot and can actually get feedback on what it's doing and understand why it's making the choices it has, then that is something that is just, elevating the level of human to robot interaction. So it will be interesting to see if this is something that OpenAI, continues to work on with these companies, because the last time we saw a demo like this, we all know exactly what we saw. Now, in addition, Figure isn't the only company backed by OpenAI. We also recently have 1X Robotics being backed by OpenAI in a $100 million round in the race to humanoid robots. Now, the reason that this robot here was one of my favorites in 2024 was because this robotics demo was just absolutely incredible. And one of the standout features for me was not just how smooth the robot moved or how human-like it was, operating, was
I was about to say that look like someone in a jumpsuit, don't it? It look like someone just dressed up. That looks too human.
the fact that you couldn't even hear this robot at all. A lot of the robots, sometimes you hear like the large gears moving and stuff like that, but this robot was so quiet. Like, it was just so Apple-esque in the way that it moved and the way that it seemed. So I
I
think
don't
this
know
one
if I
here
want
is
a
going to be
robot
super
like that. I
fascinating
want to
because
hear my
we don't
robot coming.
really have
I need to hear my robot coming. Like, because if you sneaking up on me and you're a robot, bro, that's a different issue, bro. You might spark a new mental illness in humans. I ain't gonna lie to you.
the robotic, look. It has more of a sleek and, friendly design. And that's something that they really try to work on when designing the robot. You can see that it is, covered in cloth. And this is another company that is working closely with OpenAI. And I'm wondering if they will embed their large language models in them. Now, interestingly, we do know that OpenAI recently restarted its robotics team. And 2 months ago, they revived their robotics team that it disbanded years ago. Okay, so that is a very interesting thing. Now, some of you guys might be wondering, well, why did OpenAI decide to, of course, leave their robotics team in the first place? Why was it disbanded? And Ilya Sutskever actually talks about this in a Dwarkesh Patel interview. He gives us an incredible insight with as to why exactly OpenAI chose to abandon robotics. And here he explains that it was mainly due to data.
Back then, it really wasn't possible to continue working in robotics because There was so little data. Like back then, if you wanted to work on robotics, you needed to become a robotics company. You needed to really have a giant group of people working on building robots and maintaining them and having. And even then, like if you're going to have 100 robots, it's a giant operation already, but you're not going to get that much data. So in a world where most of the progress comes from the combination of compute and data, right? That's where we've been, where it was the combination of compute and data that drove the progress. There was no path to data from robotics. So back in the day, when you made a decision to stop working in robotics, there was no path forward.
Is there one now?
So I'd say that now it is possible to create a path forward, but one needs to really commit to the task of robotics. You really need to say, I'm going to build like many thousands, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of robots and somehow collect data from them and find a gradual path where the robots are doing something slightly more useful. And then the data that they get from these and then the data that is obtained and used to train the models and they do something that's slightly more useful. So you could imagine this kind of gradual path of improvement where you build more robots, they do more things, you collect more data and so on. But you really need to be committed to this path. If you say, I want to make robotics happen, that's what you need to do. I believe that there are companies.
Basically saying you really gotta suck up not getting paid for some of the stuff that your robots might do, like eat some free tasks, just to collect data to see if they're like an internet of things or could be integrated into society at a reasonable rate. And the integration part is like a long, lengthy process because you got to get it approved. Like it has to be something you're set on. That's all he's saying, basically.
Who are thinking about doing exactly that. But I think that you need to really love robots and need to be really willing to solve all the physical and logistical problems of dealing with them. It's not the same as software at all.
Now, in addition to that, there was also the researcher at OpenAI, Wojciech Saremba, and this is, one of the founding members of OpenAI. He actually spoke in an interview in 2021 on Weights and Biases podcast about how there were just too many issues with robotics. And it was really interesting to see the kinds of issues he spoke about. And do you want to know why that interview was fascinating to watch once again? Is because when you take a look at the issues that he speaks about here, and he mentions things like, data and, stuff like that, which I want you guys to take a look at quickly.
Do you think that there's more progress in the short term, or will it be sort of the last thing that we solve on the path to AGI?
So there are two possibilities for me, like a few possibilities. So one is if someone would be able to actually, in natural way, to collect a lot of data, I think that might be the capabilities.
So now, of course, we could have that situation where the data issue is solved. We could have simulated robots and then immediately deploy that to the real.
That's what I was saying earlier. So some of the tests, like NVIDIA, they have like simulated data where they're like simulating some of the activities, physics, and just overall crazy stuff. 2 minute papers does a great job at touching at some of those things because it is a space. That's why I was asking the question earlier, like what is it that you guys are doing? Because I know in that space data isn't easy to get, and making sure robots do useful things and integrated them into the workforce before like into like human life is like a pivotal point in robotics right now. I know that's where we're at. Some people integrated robotics into their business operations. So it's like gonna be interesting to see where it's at next year in 2025 and coming.
Real world, when we have simulators like Genesis that allow us to place robots in environments in the simulated world and then map those one to one, we do know that this is something that could result in something amazing in terms of speeding up robotics. You can see right here that they talk about the fact that this is much faster than NVIDIA's Isaac Gym, and it is 20 times faster than these GPU accelerators. So this is something maybe OpenAI is looking at it and like, okay, maybe now that the data issue and the speed is solved, maybe we can start hopping back into robotics and developing something alongside these other companies. Now, of course, you might be thinking that are they competing with Tesla? Well, I think OpenAI is one of those companies that is, on path to be $1 trillion company if they continue at the pace that they're going. And when we look at the size of the humanoid robot,
I disagree. I think the follow for OpenAI is going to be studied soon because if they don't pivot into, I guess, robotics, I feel like they're not going to have a use case with all the competition out there right now. Like, they're the first, granted, they're the first, but even with Elon Musk, like, they're not working with Elon Musk, trying to avoid him. Their son and the whole board had left one time, not one time during throughout the year 2023, going into 2022, going into 2023. Um, a whole bunch of, I guess, propaganda for AGI right now, and we don't know if the model they have is AGI or it's close to AGI. Um, it's just a lot of things going on in that company, and if they don't pivot and find like a niche down area where they can thrive, I'm not sure if they're gonna have that same impact that they once did when they came out. Like that dream is dwindling. That's all I'm saying.
Market, we can see that the humanoid robot under development by Tesla could multiply the company's valuation, and robo-taxis make Tesla about a $5 trillion company, and the Optimus robot could make Tesla a $25 trillion company. When you think about the fact that these are basically humans duplicated on a infinite scale, we have to realize how much economic value we could pull from that. And I think maybe, just maybe, OpenAI is trying to grab a piece of that pie. And something to consider is the fact that recently we did see
Apptronic.
Google DeepMind join forces with Apptronic's robotic team, and they're going to be combining the best in class AI with cutting edge robotics hardware to create AI powered humanoid robots. And it says, get ready for a new era of helpful robots in dynamic environments. So overall, we can see that there is going to be some competition from these top labs in terms of the kind of products that they're going to be working on. And I think maybe OpenAI wants their own. I personally don't think OpenAI will create their own humanoid robots. I think they're personally working on a million different things, and I think that might slow them down. But I'm always ready to be surprised, considering the fact that OpenAI are an extremely talented company. But it will be interesting to see what they're going on. Right now, of course, it is just discussions, so nothing is concrete. But it will be interesting to see what potentially does.
So I think that they will go for humanoid robots. I honestly feel like that because of how Elon Musk is taking the control as a political tech mogul right now. Can't ignore it. So at least Sam Altman wants to position OpenAI legally in a position where they can thrive and focus on all other areas. But because it's such a wild, wild west right now, I feel like we're trying to get some regulation on what can and can't be done. And sadly, we have things in place that's going to orchestrate and facilitate a lot of stuff in the tech world when it comes to that. AI, so I mean, they should really great insight. You're amazing. Yeah, I mean, great content. Love the content, by the way. Show some love. Show some love. And yeah. See you in the next one, yeah.